Who do you think they're talking about?
Wants to take over the world.
Rich boy playing games.
I think he's a massive to be honest.
Dangerous for democracy. He's clearly stirring the far right.
If you thought Donald Trump, you would be wrong. They were actually talking about Musk. But it's easy to be confused after Donald Trump had a huge rant at Mar-a-Lago about invading multiple countries. And Musk has done the same. But that wasn't necessarily the most wacky thing that came out of Trump's mouth during that speech. Have a listen to this.
We also want to go back, and they have already started that, to when you buy a faucet, no water comes out because they want to preserve. Even in areas that have so much water, you don't know what to do. It's called rain. Comes down from heaven. And they want to do no water comes out of the shower. It goes drip, drip, drip. The windmills are driving the whales crazy.
But in this video, we're not going to talk about those crazy comments. Instead, we're going to focus on Trump's imperial ambitions to invade the world, starting with Denmark and Greenland, Canada, Panama, and then Musk throwing in an absolute doozy when he said he wants to liberate Britain in a poll. Oh, there is one more thing. Trump wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico.
Changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate.
Actually, it's not that far-fetched either. To British viewers and Americans who watch this channel, you'll know this as the channel. But to the French, it's not called that. It's called La Manche, the sleeve. It does mean that one country and another can call the same location different names. So actually, out of all the things he's going to suggest today, that does seem to be the least wacky.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world.
As you'll start to see, there is a running trend here of Trump not knowing what the fuck he's talking about. Norway was the original owner of Greenland, and they gave it to Denmark. And Greenland became an autonomous state, so it ruled itself, but was still under the sovereignty of Denmark. And while this was all going on, he had actually sent his son to Greenland to meet with people in private meetings, nothing to do with the presidency.
That yellow house with the red top, that was his original spot before he moved. This is where it all started out here. Just incredible scenery. Super cool stuff.
All very cool until someone gets hurt, and the reason I can say that is because Donald Trump has said this.
Donald Trump said he might use military force to take control of the Panama Canal and Greenland.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
You heard correct. He's willing to invade countries, even if they're part of the EU, Denmark, or NATO. He's willing to take them by force. And as you heard earlier, he talked about national security being one of the key reasons. I'm just not sure who the hell he's afraid of. Is it the British again? The French? Is it the Vikings? Or is it Santa Claus coming down and attacking America? Who is the threat there?
Panama Canal is a disgrace, what took place at the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter gave it to them for $1, and they were supposed to treat us well. I thought it was a terrible thing to do. You know, it was the most expensive structure ever built in the history of our country, relatively. It would be the equivalent of substantially over $1 trillion today. We lost 38,000 people. Think of it, 38,000 people, they died from malaria, mosquitoes. They were unable to stop the mosquitoes. They paid people 5 times more to take the job. Many of those people died. We gave it away for $1.
Once again, he's full of guff. He says that it's run by China. It's not. It's by the Panama government, and they issue contracts to Chinese companies. Then on top of that, he claims 38,000 died. They're not... Those numbers don't exist. It's about 5,000, and the majority of them were West Indian. But of course, Trump's not going to tell you that because they're foreigners. And to say Jimmy Carter gave it away cheaply, first of all, that seems to ignore the fact that it was running at a loss and it was costing America money. So why would an American government keep it going? Then on top of that, he seems to completely ignore the fact it's not in America, It's in Panama. But also, if you're going to go down this route of saying that you've run something down to such an extent that it needs to be taken back over, or maybe the British should take over America. Or even better yet, maybe the people who were originally there, the Native Americans.
They're not even a real country anyway.
Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like.
Yes, you heard correct. Canada is on his shopping list. Even though the country is bigger, the population size is only 40 million compared to the United States of 330. So, he wants to turn it into a single state. And what did the Prime Minister of Canada do?
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister.
And yet, Canada may have some hope with the possible incumbent Prime Minister from the Conservative Party.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap. A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so yeah. You must know somebody.
And as I said, we're still not done because there's Britain. Trump's underling or overlord, depending on who you read, decided to run a poll about whether or not Britain should be invaded. Now, it looks like Musk has taken it down, but with 13 hours left, there were 1 million votes, and the majority was saying yes, invade Britain. Between the two of them, it seems as if they've carved up a sizable empire, and if they go ahead with any of these, the repercussions are unimaginable for the rest of the world. However, they have sycophants in the UK. Have a listen to this.
The thing that I like about Trump is when he was asked where would he use force to take over, he said, "I can't assure you that I won't."
She likes what I've just described to you. She thinks it's good, or at least she thinks it's good for posturing purposes.
Now, he's not going to, but the thing that he does, he puts doubt into the minds of other countries about it because they think he's crazy enough to actually do it.
But maybe people in Greenland want to be American.
But when he says things, like, Denmark has a claim, does Denmark actually own? Do they or not? You say they're autonomous, but do Denmark own it? What claim do they actually have on it?
When people talk about the importance of free speech, they're correct. But they also miss out on the caveat, the importance of education. And what you've just heard here is someone literally repeating verbatim the words of Trump. The same guy who said we should use bleach and UV light to clear out the virus.
Jersey or Isle of Man.
And if Trump is correct in saying, this is about the security of the free world, why wouldn't these countries be interested in that? Because, if you're that, as Sarah Palin says, if you're that close to Putin, that would worry me slightly because, if Donald Trump comes into your backyard, he's not going to bomb the hell out of you.
He just said he would, and she's now saying he wouldn't do that. And then on top of that, she's justifying it because Russia's so close to Alaska. Why would Russia invade Alaska when America has nuclear weapons? What is she talking about? Russia is not going to invade the US. I'm not sure how Carol Maloney is allowed on TV like this, but the rhetoric she's saying and backing is the exact same stuff they said about Adolf Hitler. He'd never do it. That would be crazy. And to further this point, have a listen to the concern that the BBC puts forward, which I've been saying for quite a while, with regard to Trump having the guardrails taken down, which is the exact same thing that happened with Nero, who let Rome burn.
One of the things I think is different this time around, Christian, is that if you remember at the beginning of Donald Trump's first term, he had people like James Mattis in the Pentagon, he had people like Reg Tillerson in the State Department. He had people here in Congress who were sort of stopping him doing some stuff. Not all stuff, but stopping him doing some stuff.
And if the COVID example wasn't good enough for you, here's another one. Trump talking about nuking hurricanes.
Trump said they start forming off the coast of Africa as they're moving across the Atlantic. We drop a bomb inside the eye of the hurricane and it disrupts it. Why can't we do that?
The briefer said, we'll look into that, sir, And they did. There's actually a memo that came out of the Homeland Security, National Security process that memorializes the president's brain idea about this.
This time it's very different. There's not going to be a Jeff Sessions launching, as the Attorney General, launching a Russia probe, the Mueller investigation. The Defense Department's not going to stand in the way of what he says on this day or that. State Department the same. So the dynamics are going to be very different. Now, of course, there are still the courts, and there is plenty of money sloshing around in America that's opposed to Donald Trump that will try and use the courts to stop him doing things.
I'm not sure about you, but I'm deeply concerned about having these two anywhere near power. It was bad enough the first time. Now he has Musk, who is equally deranged when he starts talking about invading Britain. Personally, I would write to your MPs stating your concern, and I'd also ask them to consider making sure that Greenland stays independent as well as Canada, even if it means using British forces. This may sound extreme, but as a historian I've seen time and time again, when you get people saying rhetoric like that and they act like the strongman, the best way to respond to them is with strength. Not weakness, not words. They don't tend to listen. They do take note of troop movements. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and once again thank you to all my listeners and Patreon and YouTube members who keep this channel going and growing. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you really liked it, go to the links and become a member. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.